I think so. I can now record, and it is getting recorded. So, Surya Babu, I've made you the co-host as well. So it's
Okay.
recorded from your end as well.
Okay.
Uh, so, well, thank you again for taking this online session.
It's okay.
No, we met earlier. It's a pleasure to
Yes.
talk to you. Just so that there is some new audience who are not aware. So I just very briefly. So Surya Sarathi Roy, he is the director of IHAR of the North India Circle, I guess, and he is a technologist and heritage conservationist. And his research, he has done research in lots of places in India, including Vraja Mandala, Kurukshetra, Orissa, Mewar, and also about Maratha history, etc. So he is currently the panelist for desk reviews of UNESCO World Heritage Sites for 2024 from ICOMOS, ICOMOS, which is a UNESCO body. And he has been always associated, life member and researcher associated with INTACH, INTACH. With that, I hand over to our speaker. And today will take us a little bit of what does heritage, what does in general heritage mean? And Vraja Mandala will be a case study, including so the heritage, including the archaeological aspects. Thank you, Surya Babu, again. So please, we can start.
So give me a minute. I'll share the presentation.
Sure.
And just let me know once my screen is available.
Yes, your screen is available.
Okay.
It will be helpful if you can make it full screen. Yes.
Yes. Is it okay now?
Right. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay. So let me just open the. Okay, so thank you, IIT Kanpur team, for having me for this online session. And today I will be discussing on heritage, what exactly it means, what all components are there in heritage. And as a case study, as Arnab ji mentioned, we will take up Vraj Mandal. And what we are going to do exactly is taking Vraj as a case study or as a specimen. I will try to show you all the aspects which revolve around heritage. So now coming to that, of course, what we will cover, what does Vraj mean? Why is it a heritage epicenter? The geographical expanse, the orientation to Harivansh Puran, resurrection of Vraj, who was Maharaj Vajranath, then the Sapta Devale, then the temple architecture, a bit of it, the archaeological concerns, the Vraj Parikrama, and of course, Holi as a heritage activity over there, or from a cultural tourism perspective. Now, coming to my next slide, the most important, what does heritage comprise of? Okay. So typically, for your easier understanding, what I've done, that this is a description or a definition which is done as per UNESCO. And what I've done is I've divided it into two major categories, the tangible heritage and the intangible heritage. So tangible heritage, obviously, as you can see, it is anything that you can see, you can feel, etc. And tangible heritage can further be divided into movable and immovable. So immovable will have historical buildings, monuments, archaeological sites. Movable will have paintings, sculptures, furniture, wall paintings, etc. But this also will have, which is not included in this PowerPoint, is coins, manuscripts, ancient texts, iconography, etc. In intangible heritage, oral traditions, expressions, nature, world, traditional skills, art form, folk dances, skill sets of people through which traditional pottery or any artifacts are made, or any traditional festival for that matter. So to keep it very simple, I have tried to bring in a definition for a very easier understanding of you. And these all combine into the bigger umbrella of cultural heritage that we see. Yeah. So cultural heritage that we see, of course, there are other definitions of heritage depending on its nature, depending on by its functioning. Then there is a natural heritage, all that stuff we will cover slowly by example. But for an easier understanding and being a first day, I wanted to showcase to you and give a very brief understanding and of a very broader understanding of what heritage typically and component wise consists of. Questions, you can keep it for the end of the session. I will answer your questions after this PPT. Now, secondly, why did I pick Vraj Mandal from a part of my research? Because Vraj, through my experience, through my research work that I have, found out is when I look at Vraj, it covers typically many things actually. So one is the cultural heritage, then there is archaeology, numismatics, that is the coins, study of coins, and temple architecture, then observing what truly heritage comprises of, you will get to see what it comprises of. Then paleography, which is deciphering the manuscripts, the historicity or antiquity of Vraj, how old it is actually. And then finally, one of the most hotly debated topics today with India being renamed as Bharat, why we should read our ancient scriptures and texts. So basically, this presentation is a very, very conscious effort to not only give you a flavor of what heritage truly comprises of, but also the functioning of each of these elements, which helps you to define heritage not only on the ground, but also make you understand what it truly comprises of and what our responsibilities as a citizen of India should actually be uh, comprised of. And if that is the case, then obviously it gives us a very broader perspective and understanding of heritage, how it looks like. Okay. So, as you can see from the picture and going back to my last slide, let me just quickly give you a glimpse. This is the most opulent temple architecture that came up in entire North India in the 700 years of Islamic rule that we had in North India, and the Govind Dev Ji temple. We will touch upon it. So this gives you a very nice flavor of temple architecture of the Northern India style. So the Indian temple architecture science has many bifurcations. Like in north, it is mostly the Nagara style, which goes up. In east or in Orissa side, it is the Kalingan architecture style. In south, it is the Dravidian architecture style. So there are multiple styles of architecture of temples, and this is a classic example of the Nagara style. Of course, the pictures that you're going to see will give you a good understanding of the inner architectural details rather than the outside, because outside obviously it was brought down by Aurangzeb. The manuscripts that you see, these are the original manuscripts of the legendary Geet Govind by Jaydev Goswami, written in the 12th century CE. So, that is how, and it is kept in Vraj Vrindavan Research Institute. This statue or this idol sculpture, you can understand it is quite famous. You have seen it in many of our history books. It is the headless torso of the Kushan king Kanishka, which is kept in the in the Mathura Museum. Then this is another Kushana era signifying Kanishka Kushana era coin kept in the Mathura Museum. This is a fort which exists in Mathura by the side of Yamuna by the name of Raja Kang's Kakila. People say it was used by Kangs. Anyways, there is no such archaeological evidence to that. Then there is the natural heritage, the kunds. So typically, we have a lot of trees, forest, ones, which I will cover in details, a lot of natural heritage in Vraj. That is why one of the reasons that I selected this particular site to make you understand what typically goes on to heritage. And then there is this dance form, which is called the Mukharai Charukala, which is, performed around, around Holi. So this is, again, a traditional art form or a dance form with a skill set, certain skill sets required. So it goes into being an intangible heritage. Then there is the Vraj art form, which is also an intangible heritage because it requires certain skill sets, knowledge passed on from generation to generation to go perform these kind of arts. And then there is Giri Govardhan, which is a mountain, obviously a depleted one, which gives you another flavor and understanding of natural heritage. So if you typically see, very carefully see this combination, it has manuscripts, it has coins, it has sculptures, it has temple architecture, it has natural heritage in these two forms, it has art forms, it has the forts, which is built heritage, and then there is the traditional art forms. So this is why I choose this site, which can give you a good flavor of what heritage is all about. So any questions till now?
No. I think, yeah, not a question, but I think this nice to see that heritage. What does it mean? Yeah, so I think we can continue.
Okay, thank you. So now, as I said, why we should read our scriptures, and starting from B.B. Lal, Dr. B.B. Lal, Dr. S.R. Rao, these two luminaries of Indian archaeology, if you can see, they have also, for their work, fallen back on our ancient scriptures to get vital clues, to get vital directions for their archaeological excavations, for their archaeological study, etc. And I mean, the slides more and more as you go through the slides, you will understand why I am emphasizing on reading our scriptures, at least develop some good understanding around it. So, Vraj, obviously, from Rig Veda means a Goshala, or Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda, Samaveda, they all, points towards Goshala and cows and grazing ground from cows. But the only difference is in Harivansh Puran and Srimad Bhagavatam, Vraj is used as interior parts of Mathura where the Yadavas used to stay. And when I say the Yadavas, it means the the Vrishnis and the Andakas. So Sri Krishna was actually amongst the entire Yadava tribe. There were smaller clans. So the Vrishni clan was the clan where Sri Krishna was born, and then the other important clan were the Andakas. And the geographical expanse, why this is important? Because the geographical expanse, more or less, which is being defined for Vraj Mandal, even exists today. And this is substantiated by the fact that Vraj Bhasha is even spoken in those areas even today. So if you see, it is 84 crores Vraj, which is 168 miles, and the Vraj Bhasha is spoken over 38,000 square miles. The boundary finds mention in so many of our ancient texts, including the Mahabharata and Valmiki Ramayana. And of course, the political demarcations are now different, but let me give you a small example to understand. Vraj actually spreads till Sohna in Gurgaon. The Gurgaon city per se has a segment, a portion which is called Sohna. So Vraj actually, as per Puranic descriptions, comes to Sohna, and even today, the Vraj 84 course parikrama that happens, it does touch parts of Sohna. So you see, traditions are tied to our scriptures, and that is further tied to our antiquity of the land. So that's why it is very important to understand this facet of, heritage. Now, coming to a little bit description on the natural heritage, it has 12 category of ones, which has been defined in the very different categories of Puranas, Varaha Puran, Padma Puran, Bhavishya Puran, Vishnu Puran, 12 categories of forests. So major ones is, Vrindavan is a major one, Kumudvan is a major one, then Madhuvan is a major one. And then, interestingly, I don't know how many of you are aware, Vraj actually has been defined by Swayambhu Manu in Manusmriti as Brahmarshi Desh. He went on to define the region of Kurukshetra as Brahmavarta, and this one, the definition of Brahmarshi Desh that he has given, Mathura Mandal or the Vraj Mandal lies inside the Brahmarshi Desh. In Manusmriti, he has called it Surasen. It was named as Madhupuri, Madhupura, Madhura in Satya and Treta Yuga. One of the 7 holiest cities of Bharat. I think many may have heard of it. And Padma Puran mentions Mathura as holier than Kashi, spread between Karande, UP, Rajasthan, and Haryana. And innumerable kunds. So there are around 56 or 57 sarovars are kund and then followed by hillocks, of which Govardhan is one of them. There are other hillocks as well, which we will cover. And the importance of these hillocks in terms of archaeological, archaeological findings is immense, because these hillocks or these mounds or the tilas, that we call them tilas, in Vraj it is called as tila, mostly popular as tila, has yielded, whenever they have been excavated, as very rich archaeological findings. Then another important why we should read the Puranas are the Harivansh Puran. Now, Harivansh Puran, that I've seen that many people have read Mahabharat, but Harivansh Puran nobody has read actually. And Harivansh Puran was extensively used by Dr. B.B. Lal and Dr. S.R. Rao in particularly mapping Dwarika by S.R. Rao and Dr. B.B. Lal for Kurukshetra, Indraprastha, Hastinapur, and Mathura. Now, interestingly, I don't know how many of you are aware, even today, the Mahabharata tilas that, or the mounds that exist in and around Meerut city, because Hastinapur is around Meerut, I think 25 kilometers from Meerut. And there is a, Draupadi mound, there is a Varnavarat mound, there is, Draupadi Kund over there. So there are multiple mounds by the names of some of the other characters of Mahabharat. And Indraprastha, digging of Indraprastha, which is currently in progress by ASI in the Purana Kila segment, is also yielding a lot of very rich archaeological results. Now, and similarly in Kurukshetra and Dwarka. Now, interestingly, what I wanted to say is that when Professor S.R. Rao, when I'm there on 28th, I will cover this point a little more in details with Dwarka as a case study. Professor S.R. Rao, when he did those underwater excavations in 1980s for Dwarka or Great Dwarka, whatever you can say, he just mentioned one thing based on his findings. He said that the name tag Sri Krishna's Dwarka is missing. Otherwise, everything is there. Why he said that? Because whatever description was there for Dwarka in Mahabharat or in Harivansh Puran exactly matched. Dwarka means a walled city. The description of the walls, the kind of mechanization in the walls, the kind of thickness of the walls, the architecture of the walls, the number of outposts which have been defined, the coins which have been used, etc., exactly matches with that. Unfortunately, our government has still not done much about it. But that is the importance of our Purans, and that is why I keep saying that Professor Lal and Professor Rao did use these ancient texts to a great extent, to a massive extent, I would say, in terms of archaeology in mapping these places. Even, I mean, during my, I'm writing a book on Kurukshetra, and my research also gives a lot of inputs about placing of these various important areas or points of Kurukshetra region is defined in the Puranic texts, particularly in Vaman Puran, Agni Puran, Padma Puran, or even, of course, in Rig Veda. So before I go on to the next slides, any questions till now?
No.
Okay, so now Vraj Mandal, since we are discussing on the historicity and antiquity of this place, we have to understand how many times it has been resurrected, because archaeologically that gives us a lot of vital information, crucial information in plotting the place, and also whatever comes out in terms of archaeological finds, dating them with respect to the scriptural mentions. So first was the Treta Yuga by Shatrughna Maharaj, the youngest of Sri Ram's brother, who killed Lavanasur and established the fortified and city of Mathura, and which is called Madhupura or Madhura, and it was a fortified city with moats all around it. Then came Sri Krishna in the Dwapar Yuga. This was around 3200 BCE. I am taking the most accepted date, when he entirely transformed, after killing Kamsa, entirely transformed the Mathura Mandal. Now, just remember one thing, Mathura Mandal, Vraj Mandal are the same thing. The Varaha Puran tells this area, mentions this area as Mathura Mandal. The rest of the areas are mentioned as Vraj Mandal. the rest of the scriptures. And then came the most important part was the Maharaj Vajranav's resurrection, what he did in the end of Dwapar Yuga, around 3000 BC, 100 years from the death of Vajranav, 100 years from the death of Sri Krishna. And this was the time, I will get into the details in the next slide, when the major sculpting happened. And this portion is very important because it gives us a very established lineage of how sculpting or Mathura, developed as a epicenter of sculpting. Then came Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Bhakti movement, followed by Vallabhacharya when they, resurrected Vraj. They rediscovered all the deities, they rediscovered all the natural heritage, the kunds and sarovars, the ones, earmarked them, wrote about them, documented them, most importantly, listed them, and that's how what we have today is a legacy of those activities. And then came the Marathas and the Jat kings around 18th century when they built a lot of temples, repaired the ghats, or even built their own cenotaphs as well. But one thing during this resurrection, one of the most important activities which is normally missed out, but in historical parlance has a very important standing, is the name of Frederick Solomon Grouse, the collector of Mathura between 1868 to 1874. This was the time, this gentleman, I always hold him in very high esteem because he was the person who actually in the modern era replotted all the temples, resurveyed all the key archaeological sites of Vraj Mandala and documented them. And one of the most benevolent activities that he did was to plot some around 5,000 ancient temples, of which today only 1,000 survive. So this is one of the key temples of Vraj, the Gopinath temple. I will come to it later on. And F.S. Frederick Solomon Grouse, to that extent, you can understand his work. The Govind Dev Ji temple, which is the most important and the #1 temple of entire Vraj Mandal, when Aurangzeb had taken it down in 1669, 1670, he had built a mazar so that everyday people can go up and do their prayers and all that stuff. I don't need to elaborate on that. But, this gentleman came, he was fascinated by the architecture, the archaeology of the place, and the sculpting work on the temple, and of course the manuscripts which were available on the walls, and then removed the mazar from there. So that's one of the most critical activities that he did during his entire tenure for mapping the archaeological history of Vraj, for that matter. And his findings are till today used by us, and even I use it per se. So we'll have to understand now these details are coming from the Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran and the Harivansh Puran, and also to some extent from Mahabharat. So who was Vajranav? One of the legends of Vrindavan being named as Vrindavan is coming from Maharaj Vajranav. So that's one of the legends, but Vrindavan is always one of the key ones of Vraj, so as defined in the scriptures. So he was Sri Krishna's great grandson, and when Maharaj Yudhishthir departs from Mahaprasthan, he coronates Parikshit for Indraprastha and Vajranav for Mathura Mandal. He was a master sculptor who was only 13 years old when he took charge, and he sculpted all these deities. Okay, and this particular deity that you see is of Govind Dev Ji, the most important deity of Vraj. And why is he so important? I will come to the next slides to tell you its story. But what did he do? Haridev, so Baldev, Keshavdev, and Govindev. Keshavdev or Katra Keshavdev is nothing but the Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi. I have not covered Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi in these slides because it will get unnecessarily long and it requires a lot of discussion. Then two Naths, Srinath and Gopinath. So Srinath is the same Srinath Vigraha which is there in Nathwara today. Two Gopals, Madan Gopal and Sakshi Gopal. So Madan Gopal is in Karoli, Sakshi Gopal is in Puri, Jagannath Puri, Orissa. four Devis, Vrinda Devi, Mansa Devi, Patal Devi, and Yogmaya Devi, all of them exist today. The four Mahadev, Gopeshwar, Chakleshwar, Kameshwar, and Bhuteshwar, these Shivalingams have been destroyed. Some of them, these deities are also destroyed had it not been camouflaged and they have not been taken away. That's a different story I will tell you, with the flight of deities and into various places. And Dr. Meenakshi Jain, renowned historian, also covers the story, but there's more to what meets the eye. So each of these deities have a long lineage of history of how they escaped. So I will tell you a bit about Govind Dev Ji for your understanding and interest, because that also is related to archaeology. Now, this is the Govind Dev Ji temple right in the heart of Vrindavan. And you can see the structure with the the Rajput Gharana style jharokas over here, the curvatures, the arcades, the bends over here, and over here you can see beautiful architecture, and you can see these arches. These are actually Mughal arches, Mughal style, and that is why this temple is considered as Indo-Islamic style. But let me tell you, this is the most opulent structure to come up in entire North India during the 700 years of Islamic rule, or 500 years of Islamic rule. And how it happened, I'll give you a brief history of it. Any questions till now, Arnavji? Anyone, anything that comes to your mind?
No, so these temples that you were showing, these were built during the Rajput period, right? So around
Absolutely. This was, I will give you the history. These were all built because, see what happened, Arnavji, in 1570, Mughal Emperor Akbar with Raja Man Singh paid a visit to Vrindavan to meet the saints, and that was the time when Bhakti movement was at its peak. So he gave permission for building four majestic temples. Govind Dev Ji is one of them. And when I tell you the history of Govind Dev Ji in the next slides, you will understand clear of it. But yes, you are right. These temples came up between the periods of Akbar and Jahangir. And so, they came up during the Mughal period between Akbar and Jahangir's era, but later on destroyed or by Aurangzeb in just a span of 2 or 3 days during his rule.
Sir, I have a very small question.
Yes, please.
Meaning all these places that you have named, sir, so are these by any chance, not are these, I mean, in earlier times, so are these a part of Vraj?
Absolutely.
Vraj Parikrama and all?
Yes, Saurabh. Because this temple is situated, or all these red sandstone temples that I'm going to share with you, they are all in the heart of Vrindavan, right on the banks of Yamuna, and they stand on the same places where some of the other pastime leelas of Sri Krishna had happened, which has scriptural evidences, scriptural mention of these places. So these are very, that defines the antiquity of the place, to be very honest.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So yeah, the history and architecture of Govind Dev Ji. So this image was excavated by one of the 6 Goswamis of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rup Goswami, somewhere between 1525 to 36. It is the location. It is a Shakti Peeth also, on where Yogmaya Devi mentions. The hillock is named as Goma Tila. It is a tila. It is a small kind of plateau types, formation. The first temple in this place was built by Maharaja Bhagwan Singh in 1561. He was the father of Raja Man Singh. The current architectural plan was conceived by Raja Man Singh in 1565, and then temple took around 12 years to be built, and it was commissioned in 1590, which was the 34th year of Akbar's reign. And then the deities moved out due to the attack by Aurangzeb in 1669-70. Took around 12 years of construction. Frederick Solomon Grouse defines it as a poetry on stone. It is such an architectural marvel. The temple, most importantly, was a 7-story temple. I mean, today the structure that stands, it's so huge and opulent, and you can understand had it been a 7-story standing today, what kind of structure it would have been. And you know, one of the advantages of the Mughal rule was it was considered as a you know I will say farmans. Mughal farmans were there for anything and everything that was happening. So this temple also had a manuscript which clearly spoke that 134 bighas was donated by Akbar for the maintenance and upkeeping of this temple. And that is one of the reasons why the Mughal rule is also called as Farmani Sarkar. Then, as I said, the inscription on temple states the commissioning, donation, and details of sculptors and architects. Now, this is a red sandstone temple. There are 4 such temples in Vraj. And this red sandstone for this particular temple was diverted from the Agra fort by Akbar. Akbar gave 2 things for this temple, 3 things: the permission to build this temple, 134 bighas of land for the upkeeping of the temple, and the red sandstones required for making this temple. And he did it for a political reason. Don't think that he had some very soft part for the, this thing, but he did it purely for a political reason to align with the Rajputs, because and then give a lot of impetus to Raja Man Singh, and win their hearts, so that he has a strong backup to counter the Persian and the Iranian nobles in his court, who used to constantly oppose him. So that's a different history altogether. Currently it stands at 3 stories, taken down after destruction by Aurangzeb. Red sandstone donated by Akbar. Classical beauty, as I was mentioning, Rajput Gharana Jharokas, open arcades, pointed arches, and intersecting vaulted domes. There was a 150 kg ghee diya on the shikhar visible from the Agra fort on this temple. This was also one of the reasons that petrified Aurangzeb to take down this temple. The only grand temple that I mentioned, the most opulent structure, and the mazar was removed. Currently, it is an ASI protected site. And the flight of the deities, the pujaris, when they heard that Aurangzeb is sending his cavalry to destroy this temple, they took the deity out, and they took it. That's an amazing story or a history. They took the deity out from very odd routes and not going by the main route, because otherwise it could have been detected and destroyed. And all these places which it touched upon, it took 44 years to reach Jaipur. And each of these places through which it traversed, even today, has a temple standing there. And those are also equally nice and big temples. Because Govind Dev Ji's, why Govind Dev Ji is so important scripturally, I will come to that. Then there is and he's currently the Nagar Devta of Jaipur, because he resides in the Jaipur City Palace. Now, this is all, as I mentioned, the complete darshan of Sri Krishna. Now, these are the 3 key temples, and if you see, I have mentioned as face, torso, and the feet. So what does this mean? So it means that sculpted under the guidance of Maharani Usha, wife of Maharaj Anirudh and daughter of Banasur. So what happened? Srimad Bhagavatam tells us, or Harivansh Puran, which is a lineage of the Vrishni clan, gives us a itihasa, Puranic itihasa, that the 13-year-old sculptor Vajranath, when he started sculpting Krishna deities, he consulted his mother Usha, and Usha was the only person alive that time who had seen Sri Krishna in his physical form, in his mortal shape. So he started sculpting. So when he sculpted the first deity, the mother said that it looks like a Sri Charan. So this is Madan Mohan, and this is his original temple in Vraj on the banks of Yamuna. This is located on, Dadash Aditya Tila. Dadash Aditya means 12 sons. Dadash Aditya Tila. Scripture says that is the same Tila on which Sri Krishna rested after fighting with Kalyanag. And 12 sons appeared before him to dry him up. So it is Dwadosh Aditya Tila. The current location of this temple deity is in Karauli, Rajasthan. They all, as I said, that all moved in 1670 from Vraj and never came back. Then the next deity, when he sculpted it out, this is the Gopinath ji. This is also in Jaipur today. So the mother said that looks like his torso. And then finally, he sculpted the last deity, which is Govind Dev ji. And when the mother saw this deity, he just put up his pallu and bowed down in respect in front of the deity, because the face resembled that of Sri Krishna. So that is why Govind Dev ji in Gaudiya Vaishnav traditions is the most important deity. It is the most important deity of entire Vraj Mandal even today, and he is considered as the Maharaj of Vraj Mandal. That's why. And this is the original temple that we were discussing in detail. And maybe someday I can take you to a heritage walk to around these temples. Any questions till now?
No, that will be very good if you can take us. That is one point. The other is, I just have question. Maybe you can answer this in the end. There is connection with Sri Chaitanya, right? So as you said, he visited these things, right? Hello.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So, so Sri Chaitanya. So around what time? So this is in the 1500 something, correct?
1524.
He visited. Okay.
Yes, 1520, somewhere between 1522, 23, 24, somewhere around that time, if I correctly remember.
Okay. So this is before Akbar commissioned this.
Yes. See, the chronology of things happened. Sri Chaitanya took sannyasa and went to Jagannath Puri. From Jagannath Puri, he establishes the importance of Prabhu Jagannath, and then he comes on a pilgrimage via Kashi and Jharkhand to Vrindavan. And when he comes to Vrindavan, he himself resurrects many places like the Radha Kund, Shyam Kund, and then starts initiating the 6 Goswamis, the 6 key disciples, the core team. He starts forming his core team, the 6 key disciples, who are regarded as Sara Goswami, or the 6 Goswamis. And these 6 Goswamis in turn starts resurrecting Vraj one by one. So one of them settles around Govardhan, one of them settles in Vrindavan, one of them settles in Kama, one of them settles in Radha Kund, Shyam Kund, like that. And they start going around trying to locate those deities, trying to locate those places, trying to locate those ones. And as and when each of these things gets discovered, gets excavated, they document it, they place them in places, and then the influential people, be it a king or a trader, coming in, taking taking diksha under them, and then they start building those temples. And it was around this time when Akbar visited with Raja Mansingh. So, and Akbar visited Mansingh. Along with Mansingh, he visited whom? He visited Haridas Swami. Swami Haridas was the guru of Tansen and Baiju Baura. And he visited him, and he also visited Rup Goswami as well. So this was the time when Bhakti movement had peaked, and Vrindavan was seeing the legendary saints Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jeev Goswami, Swami Haridas, Tansen, Baiju Baura coming in, then followed by Mirabai, Surdas, legendary people coming in a plethora from across India to revive Vaishnav, Vaishnav Tattva, or Krishna worship, or the Bhagavad cult that we say. Vishnu cult, Bhagavad cult, whatever you say. Cult is a wrong term which is still being used today, but I said Tattva.
So I have one question.
Yes, please.
These 3 temples that I can see in this slide, no deity resides there at the current
there
time,
are
right?
there are deities. There are replicas being made and worshipped there. And but yes, if you go to those temples, you can see the ruins of the plunder that was done by Aurangzeb, and and you can see many other things. Understand the architecture a bit, and also, but yes, there are local replicas being made and worshipped. But the original deities, for your understanding, I have given the current location, so that any day, any one of you visiting Jaipur city, please have a look at these deities. And you know what? These deities are made by a stone which is called Bajrakit. And this stone is currently extinct on planet Earth. It is not found. And if you look at these deities at a very close distance, you will see a very astonishing glow on those deities, even after 5,000 years. Even after 5,000 years. That's the beauty.
Okay,
Any
great.
other
Yeah, thank you.
questions? Okay. The historicity of Vraj. So let's look at the various key points which Vraj has gone through. So Gautam Buddha with his disciple Kattan and Upagupta had planted Buddhism. So Mathura has been a very stronghold of Buddhism and Jainism, and these are the primary reasons because Buddha himself came and preached here. The first Tirthankara, Rishabhnath, practiced Jainism in this soil. The 22nd Tirthankara, Neminath, was born in Vraj. Mathura, as I said, became the epicenter of sculpting. So today, if you see the Mathura State Museum's inventory, 70% of it is from the Kushan era, which typically covers Buddha and the Jainas, 70% of them. But there is a lot to unearth, which I will cover in the archaeological sites in the next thing. These were nurtured and ruled by Sungas, Shakas, Mauryas, Guptas, and Kushan, visited by foreign travelers like Megasthenes, Huensang, Fayen, Tavernier, and other European travelers, plundered and seen genocides by the Huns, Ghazni, Khilji, Lodi, and Mughals, recreated and resurrected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his 6 Goswamis during Bhakti movement, and of course, monks like Vallabhacharya, Madhavacharya, Mirabai, Surdas, and many other things that I see, that I shared with you people were visiting these places. The Vraj Chaurasi Cross Parikrama, which is a very famous, I am sure all of you have heard about it. The first Parikrama, as per scriptures, were undertaken by Uddhav, who was the cousin of Sri Krishna, and as mentioned in Bhagavad Puran, and it was later on revived by Maharaj Vajranath with Maharshi Shandilya, reconstructed and popularized by Sri Chaitanya and Vallabhacharya, both of them. And here I have given the timeline. So Arnavji, as I was mentioning, 1522 CE, you see. And the parikrama was done, popularized by Vallabhacharya between 1549 and 1568, where he undertook the 3 parikramas. Interestingly, Gauriya Vaishnavas have a different route, a little bit of different route to follow on this parikrama. And the Pushti Margis or Vallabhacharya's devotees are taking a different route, but they merge, more or less start and march from the same place. 3 routes, as I said, peaks during these following months: Holi, Vasant Utsav, Damodar or Kartik month, etc. And Giri Govardhan Parikrama, which is around 22 kilometers of circumambulatory trek, is of key importance. And the entire Vraja Mandala Parikrama is 300 kilometers circumambulatory trek. Why pick this up? Because this finds mention from Dwapar Yuga through our scriptures, and also practiced in the medieval period during Bhakti movement, revived. So it has an antiquity, a tradition, and it is a heritage tradition which even exists and survives today and practiced by a large number of people. Now, if you can see, this is Holi. Vraj's Holi is world famous. I don't need to tell you about that. So I just try to show you some aspects of Holi which is being played for almost 2 months, which is, the Fuloka Holi, Gulal Kund ki Holi, Mukharai Charukala Nitya, Lakshmar Holi of Barsana, and Dauji's Huranga. Now, each of these has its own history associated. I'm not getting into that. Lakshmar Holi, as you can see, the women folks beat up the men folks in Barsana after they come here with Sri Krishna for playing Holi. Falin's Holika Dahan, I'll tell you a little bit because it's very interesting. Now, the Panditji who does this Holika Dahan, you know what happens on that? Just one day before the main Holi, the Holika Dahan we all know happens. So prior to 1 month prior to that date, this Sevayat, he stays away from his family, goes on, survives on fruits, purely on fruits, and does jap and all that, religious activities, puja, jap, aarti, etc., etc. And then on this particular day, a huge ring of fire is set up, and this gentleman runs through that, and believe me, nothing happens to him. But for that, he takes a preparation of 1 month, completely secluded, What he reads, what he eats is not known much to people. But whatever I have deciphered from my research, from my site surveys, I'm just sharing this with you. Now coming to a little bit of hardcore archaeology. Now, what happens before I get into all these telas that you see? These are the main telas that are famous in Vraj today. So the Yamuna, when it flows during the monsoon, it creates mounds, on the floor, it creates mounds depositing silts. So these are called telas, and these have been happening from time immemorial. So these are the telas which have been formed, and many of them have ancient names, Chamunda Tila, Nag Tila, Narak Tila, Rajapalika Tila, Kru Tila, Ambrish Tila, Saptarshi Tila, Kankali Tila, Hathi Tila, and so on. And there are much more. And this is the condition, this is what our archaeology is happening. Complete human encroachment on Saptarshi Tila. The Tila, as per scripture, says that the Saptarshi Rishis did penance over here on this Tila, So let's see at what all. So 15 key mounds are there. So I have only plotted a few of them, and there are some, majorly pointed out. 205 PGW sites, printed graveware sites. So printed graveware is the same pottery that was used around the Mahabharata times. Okay, it's 205 sites. Okay, 400 and plus Kushan sites, 255 plus Mauryan and Gupta sites, and state archaeology is nil about it. Many of those key temples that you see which are under state archaeology are in absolute bad shape, with vegetation growing into those temples. So if you go someday, we can show you, or even if you go on your own, you can show. So the need of the hour is to use the satellite analog technology and the GPR ground penetrating radar on these stelas by ASI, where they don't need to actually excavate. So these are the latest technologies in archaeology which has come in to actually find out if your excavation can yield results or not. And based on that, based on those findings, you can actually start an actual excavation. And as you can see, excavations have not happened. So many sites pending, and both the ASI and the State Archaeology Department are not at all bothered. Just one classical example, there is a marketplace in Vrindavan, right in the heart of Vrindavan city, which is called Loi Bazaar. Few years back, Archaeological Survey had started a little bit of excavation there, and that had also yielded PGW painted graveware stuff dating the market, the antiquity of that market to 3000 years old, right in the time of Sri Krishna and Vajranav. So this is, how archaeology is related to our scriptures, how it gives you vital inputs in terms of mapping the finds, in terms of mapping that place and understanding their lineage. Thank you. That's all I had to share with you all. You can ask me any question that comes to your mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, questions.
Thank you very much.
When you say these excavations are still pending, and you showed one site which is this Saptarishi Tila, right hand side down below. Many more must be there like this, and why can't the local people and the local administration, not people, local administration means district level administration, take it up with the help of volunteers?
Yeah, see, actually what happens, this is something, since it is an archaeological site, till the time the ASI or the State Archaeology Department writes to the district authorities, city authorities, MCDs, or so and so, nobody can initiate. The first initiation has to start from the Archaeology Department. And, this is where we kind of lack. And this is where, we have, you can see from this data only, we have a challenge of too many things, too many on the platter, and then there are issue of funds. And to be very honest, Ashokji, as far as the functioning of the state archaeology is concerned, is something really, really pathetic, I can only say. Really pathetic. Some of the states in India, they don't have a archaeology department in per se. It is just merged with the cultural department.
Can I go little off track in the sense that the local schools, there is a lot of children that are getting educated all over. Hundreds and thousands of schools are around. Can there be a route through the local children that local children and teachers can take up this?
No, Ashokji, I think one important thing is that volunteers may be dangerous because see, archaeology is a skillful job also. You have to know how
That
to.
is true. That is true. That is true. Yes,
and
yes.
actually carry off things or break things, etc. Therefore, I'm not sure what will be Surya Babu's answer, but my sense is it is best.
No, you are right. You are right.
It is best left to the professionals. We have to ensure.
But that means at the local level, at least at the district level, there should be one or two archaeology trained persons, just like we have this, trained registered doctors, registered practitioners, something like that. No?
These are all ideal things, I think, what we are saying.
Sir, actually, what happens is, as I said, nothing can move actually on the ground till the request comes from the archaeology department, be it the state archaeology, be it the ASI,
but
or the Ministry of Culture,
Yeah, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So these dates, carbon dating, what is the scientific tool used for dating this thing you're talking about? A very interesting talk. First, I must congratulate you for painstaking work. But yeah, I'm curious about the dates. How were the?
There are plethora of there are multiple techniques used by ASI today, right, starting from digital. And to be very honest, carbon dating is actually becoming obsolete. There are datings which are happening using the GIS technology. And when I'm there on 28th, I will cover those in details. Honestly, I have not included them right now, so that it is not too much of a burden for all the participants to understand. But yes, I will cover that point when I'm there on 28th.
Right. This is just to highlight this important point. So he will be here for a physical talk and interaction on 28th to 8th of September. So we'll get more chance to catch up with all these questions. But yes, please, let us want the questions now.
Great. Okay. So, but can I ask one follow up? Just a suggestion.
Yeah, please.
Controversial thing. Keep those dates and the methods. Well, I'm not. There are people who will ask questions on that one. The second thing is this: the statue. Okay, 5,000-year-old. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know about this history, but is there a way to infer it? I mean, how do you convince somebody like, okay, this is indeed 5,000-year-old?
So these are mentioned from our scriptures, our scriptural findings, and the archaeological findings of the deities are well documented, and that is when I could share the dates with you. Like the Govindevji deity was excavated from ground in between 1525 to 1534 CE by Rup Goswami. These are all documented facts. And and these deities, since it was under the ground, and the entire Vraj Mandala area has undergone so much of devastation in the hands of the Islamic iconoclasts or the Huns, so there has been destruction all around of our temples, and obviously the deities were hidden. The flight of deities at the time of Aurangzeb is a stark reminder to that fact only, that how these deities have survived over a period of time. So I can only substantiate on that fact, giving you classic real-time examples of all these happenings which have been documented.
Right. So one question what you said is there is this material with which the clothes is and it's not found anywhere on Earth. So this must be some kind of an alloy or something, right? Which we do not know how to build. We have forgotten.
Yeah,
the technology.
even I don't have much. I'll be very honest here. I don't much of an idea. But this stone, is not found any date. And I have looked at all these DTs from very close quarter, very very close quarter. And to my understanding, they have a very different kind of glow that I do not see in any of the deities today. It is a very different. Probably, if you yourself or anyone, any interested person, has a closer look, probably will understand. What I'm trying to convey.
So,
Because
Suryaji,
archaeology, very typically, I'll just give you one feeler. Archaeology is something where the more you are connected to the ground, the more you do site visits, the more you observe things physically, examine things physically, the understanding the components, the build, the iconography becomes more and more clearer to you.
Suryaji,
Yeah.
the deities that you have shown in the slides, those three deities,
Yes.
I mean, are you claiming that they are 5,000 years old or they are
Yes.
replicas made later?
No, these are not replicas because all of them were excavated from the grounds, all of them came out. So, this is one deity or all of these deities, when they were excavated, those timelines have been captured. The scriptures clearly mention of their sculpting and then establishing on those places and then they disappearing over a period of time.
No, but can't they be
Carbon
dated
dated.
with some method?
I don't know if ASI or anybody has tried to date these DTs or not, but they are prima facie today accepted as 5,000-year-old DTs, as per our scriptural records and as per the findings that have been done.
Okay, there's one more question, if I may ask. So,
Yeah.
at least the history books which we read, the modern history books, they say that the temple worship started later. I mean, not well. I don't know which period. Well, they say maybe around 1000 BC or so. But your statement is that temples were there much earlier. So, what about the Dwarka temple? I mean, the one which is standing right
See,
now.
there are two aspects to it, Arnavji. There are two aspects to it. One is temple architecture in India, which can be traced back. Mark my words, which can be traced back is 2nd century BCE. The earliest temple which could be found. Yes, of course, the Ananta Padmanabhiswara temple in Srirangam, is a temple which scriptures say that it is from the Treta Yuga, end of Treta Yuga. It survived through the Dwapar Yuga. So that is scriptures. As far as archaeological finds are concerned, the earliest temple plinth that has been found is of 2nd century BC, where records say that the deities were worshipped on an elevated platform. Then people started putting pillars around them, and then complete structure started coming up. Now, as I said, 5,000-year-old deities, they were established in temples. So over these 5,000 years, what happened to them? There is no history actually available, to those temples. Where did they disappear? So that's one challenge obviously we have. Had it been so, then obviously that could have been it could have been much easier to establish those lineage to those deities. So that's one thing. The second question, coming to your second point that you highlighted, was if you can just repeat that question, sir.
So, yeah, basically, history books tell that, okay, 1000. Well, now you answered the question. There was no second question.
Oh,
You
okay.
according to you, the temple thing is a temple worship is more ancient than the present books
Yeah,
talk.
archaeological finds definitely is hinting at 2nd century BC. But if we go by our scriptures, right from the starting of Rig Veda, we had we had worships in place, we had yagas or havans in place, very much in place, and I won't be
The
surprised.
Yagna thing were destroyed, no, after the worship, after the sacrifice. Yagna mounds or well, Yagna.
No, it was not destroyed because I'll tell you what, the place where these yagnas used to happen was considered to be very auspicious, very auspicious. And if I look at Vaman Puran, Agni Puran, Padma Puran, or even Tatre Aranyaka, Satapad Brahmana, or even Rig Veda, for example, Kurukshetra is considered as the Uttarapath of the Brahmavarta. Uttarapath means the northern direction of Brahma's altar. Brahma's altar is like the place where Brahma did his sacrifice and did his yaga. So the north side was considered as the one of the boundary limits of Kurukshetra. So one of the areas where if that is the case, if Uttarapath or that is one of the place considered as Brahma's yaga sthal, then obviously it is a clear indication of the fact, going by the scriptures, that yaga sthals were never destroyed. Even today, if you go to any any hermitage, any temple, or even come to places like Haridwar, the yaga kunds which are made or have been operational, they have been operational for the last few many years. That is where they always keep yagya. And Hindu scriptures always say that you should not be destroying a yagya place. If you do so, then it's very unholy. So and that is one of the reason why, if you really look at the Islamic iconoclasts, why they used to break our sculptures, because our Riti Niti says that once a sculpture is broken, we cannot worship it. We should not worship it, right? Once the Yagasthal is demolished, we cannot be doing it, right? If you see the Puranic descriptions, if you read Ramayana, Mahabharata, we have seen mention of characters, Asuric characters who destroy the Yagasthals. So there is a clear demarcation, clear indication of the fact about the religious sanctity of those places and the continuity of those places.
So the question which I'm sorry, I take a lot of your time.
Dwarika. No, it's okay. Yeah. Dwarika, correct. Yeah.
I read some books, they say 1800 BC. Even I think what is Dr. Lal's date?
See, as far as Dwarika is concerned, the best detailed work on Dwarika has been done by Professor S.R. Rao. And Professor S.R. Rao mentioned this at somewhere around 9000 BCE. And which means, and Dwarika is established as a Harappan, in the Harappan culture, as a key port city. So I will show you a coin. Let me just take a quick example. Give me 2 minutes, huh? I will show you something.
Yeah, just a side remark, like what Surya is talking about. There's no museum of Dwarika in Dwarika city. I was there, I looked for museum, there's nothing.
But the Dwarika finds are there in Kurukshetra Sri Krishna Panorama Museum. That's the beauty. And people don't know about it.
Yeah, well, I went there, I wanted to look for it, but nothing was. Yeah. Good, I should visit Kurukshetra actually, yes.
But you should visit Kurukshetra with me, otherwise you'll get lost.
Oh, sure. Well, that will be a great pleasure. We should.
Yes.
So we'll discuss on that. We should plan heritage walks, because those are the stuff that people or the students should learn about. Okay, let me show you this slide. This will give you an indication of what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's start from the right-hand corner.
No, so we cannot see, I mean, we can only see the Devala slides.
Oh, okay, sorry. I think I have not shared it. Sorry. So sorry. That is
Unshare,
shared. I
unshare
think.
and unshare again. Unshare and
Yeah,
share.
yeah, yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I am sure many of you know this. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, that's the Jagannath Puri on top of Jagannath Puri. It's there.
That's right. So that's right. Do you see a creature over here?
Yeah.
This creature? Do you see
Yeah.
this? Okay.
So,
Do you feel this creature is somewhat like this?
Mhm.
And do you see this creature?
Yeah.
Okay. So this creature is called Navagunjar. And this is a Oriya Patachitra which shows that, can somebody go on mute, please? I think somebody is not on mute. Thank you. So this is an Oriya Patachitra based on the regional Oriya Mahabharata written by Sarala Das, the Oriya Mahabharata, which mentions this creature which is comprised of 9 animals as Navagunjar. Nava means 9 and Gunjar means animal. Sri Krishna during his Vishwarupam in the battlefield of Kurukshetra gives darshan to Arjuna in this form. This is mentioned in Sarala Das's Uriya Mahabharata. Now, this same creature is inbuilt on the Sudarshan Chakra of the Sri Jagannath temple. And the same creature can be found in the Harappan seal. Now, this Harappan seal was a kind of visa or a passport for doing entry-exit into Dwarika. This was Dwarika, Lothal, these were the major port cities. And this seal was used as entry-exit point at the check gates. Now, there was, after a lot of study, I understand that there was a lot of voyages happening, trade routes between Orissa and Lothal and Dwarika, because Lothal and Dwarika acted as transit ports to the Mediterranean on the Middle East, actually, or the African continent. So these seals might have flown into Orissa, and that is how the Oriya Mahabharata, which was written in somewhere around 16th century, and starting from these seals were in 3rd century BCE, 2nd millennium BCE, 3rd century BCE. From there to Uriyadas's Mahabharata, and then to the Jagannath temple. So there you can see the continuity. But if you look at the translations given by Rakhaldas Banerjee or Alexander Cunningham, they could not decipher those seals. So, that's what I'm trying to say, that, these findings are very different. And, Arnavji, Professor Rao's findings that was there in, Dwarika has not been further followed upon. Today we have Professor Birendra Krishna Jha uses the satellite analog technology to share the more and greater details of what still lies unexcavated, underwater, and he's constantly writing for banning maritime activities over there. But nothing has happened of that sort. So, and whatever has been excavated, the ship anchors, I will try to show you pictures when I'm there on 28. Ship anchors of recovered from Dwarika, huge stones. Those are kept in the museum in Kurukshetra. So yes, a lot needs to happen in Dwarika, and once it is done, I'm sure a lot of things will unfold. Any other question?
One
So
more
somewhat unrelated question, as you brought up this Harappan seal. Do you think that Harappan civilization and Rig Vedic civilization are the same?
No, Rig Veda is much earlier to Harappan civilization. Much earlier. At least to the best of my understanding, that goes, Harappan civilization, Rigvedic civilization is earlier to that. At least if I follow the lineage of the Bharata tribes, then definitely it is much earlier.
Correct. I think that's
Okay,
what.
thank you.
Yeah.
So actually, the one comment on this, Danino, well, we believe him or not believe him, he says they coexisted. The Vedic,
So,
Rigvedic,
Mahendra,
Vedic culture and the Harappan coexisted.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah.
but by
See,
Vedic, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, please, you
No,
finish
no,
up
but
then.
I think by Vedic, what he means is the later Vedic. See, the Atharva Ved and all of this is also part of the Vedic thing,
Yeah,
right?
okay. I mean the Aryan. So,
No, there
See,
is no Aryan. There is no Aryan.
there is no Aryan.
Aryan is okay.
There was reverse migration rather. It was not Aryan, it was reverse migration. So I'll tell you something very important. I was talking with Dr. Vivek Devroy. I was hearing to him in one of our lectures that he delivered in, in INTACH. And the topic was why we should read our scriptures. And he mentions a very pertinent point, which I always keep reading everywhere. Indian or Bharatiya tradition, culture, slokas, gyanas, everything was by Smriti and Shruti. Smriti and Shruti. They got or they started documenting it somewhere around from 5th century CE. So many people will argue that, oh, Skanda Puran. I agree, it is the most complex of the Puranas, but it was documented, I think, in 12th or 13th or 14th century. How can you say that? People don't understand that our traditions were Smriti and Shruti. They were documented much later, but they were flowing down from those eras. Otherwise, it would not have been possible standing in 5th century CE to document those things or slokas. To mention that Panini is a classic example, Aryabhat is a classic example. These people are himself, this thing. So for example, I will mention one beautiful thing, the Narasimha, the concept of Narasimha or the Tattva, Narasimha Tattva is not in Vishnu Puran or in Bhagavad Puran. The Narasimha Tattva first comes out in Tatri Aranyaka. It gets first mentioned in Tatri Aranyaka. Similarly, another interesting thing, like we always worry Radha Krishna, we always say, but the concept of Radha was never there in Harivansh Puran or in Mahabharata or in Srimad Bhagavatam, which are the three key texts for the Vaishnavas. But it gets its first finds or makes its emergence in 12th century Gita Govinda by Jayadev Goswami. So, but that does not, justify, the discoveries. But if I look at the history of Vraj, the discoveries by I would say the 6 Goswamis, many of them claim that in their scriptures, they claim that they were guided by a feminine divine light, which they consider as Radha. There are places today in Vraj which is denoted as Radha's birthplace, her ancestral place, etc. So Indian traditions, Bharatiya traditions are a mix of Smriti, archaeology, oceanography, astronomy, everything. If you look at the other slide that I mentioned, the slide on the resurrection of Vraj, I mentioned a timeline of 3000 BC. Now, scholars are split on the Mahabharata dateline. There is a set of scholars who believe it happened between 1000 1500 BC, some who believe between 6000 to 7000 BC, but the most accepted fact is between 3000 to 3400 BC, with the Mahabharata war happening at 3102 BC and Sri Krishna passing away 36 years after that. And interestingly, Aryabhat in the Aihole inscription also delivers this date, 3102 BC. Now, how is that possible? How is Aryabhat, who is so old, delivers the date so accurately as 3102 BC? So we have to actually consider a lot of factors, and one of my close associates, my respected teachers, professors, I can say, Shri Vedveer Aryaji has defined the chronology of Bharata in a very different perspective. I mean, as per him, the dating of Buddha, dating of Adi Sankaracharya is completely different from the Gregorian style of dating that we do today. All our history is based on Gregorian datings today.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So, any other questions?
Well, no, so maybe we can close today. Anyway, you will be coming here, so we will have more questions and more interactions with you. So, fine. So we can close today's session. Thank you again for this wonderful session, starting from what heritage is to this Vraja Mandala. And I wish we can go someday on this heritage walk with you, Kurukshetra, Vraja, and all of these things.
Absolutely. We can always, when I'm there, we can chart out a plan and it will be wonderful because the heritage walks that I deliver, since I am a ICOMOS and INTACH certified heritage walker, what we do, we first deliver a couple of orientation sessions with the participants to give them a better understanding of the entire topography that we are going to cover. Then it is followed by each of the sites. We give you separate handouts for each of the sites, which has a research-based analog of what happened, when it happened, what are the details, who did it, what were the criticalities, etc., associated with each of the sites. So that the participants, when I'm talking to them at the site, are able to relate at a much better level, in a more deeper level, and they are able to derive something out of it. So that's how I do it actually. So, and yes, it will be I mean, and you won't believe, Arnavji, when you look at the temples that I showcase to you people today, in whatever form they stand today, even today, you will be amazed to look at the architecture and sculpting over there. You don't need to go to South, you don't need to go to Orissa. Just come and visit Vrindavan to see this architecture. Absolutely classical.
Right. No, so we should definitely plan this. I'm all for it. So we will plan it once you come.
Yes.
We will have a team from here.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I would request you to include, I mean, maybe not include a separate trip to Ayodhya also, if that is possible.
Ayodhya is there in my chapter, but I have not started Ayodhya. But I normally do it for Vraj Mandala, Kurukshetra, Panipat, Orissa, and the heart of India, that is MP, Malwa, Gwalior belt and Malwa belt.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And
right,
Rajasthan,
so we can start, Jishnu, we can
and
start with the closest, which is our Vraja Mandala.
Yeah,
and of course, Udaipur and Jaipur.
Acha, Jaipur will be interesting because this connection is there. I did not know that.
Yes, Jaipur.
It is
In
a
fact,
very
just to give you this thing, there is a place in Jaipur by the name of Kanak Vrindavan or Kanakpura.
Kanakpura, yes.
Kanakpura, it is also called Kanak Vrindavan. It is called Kanak Vrindavan. You know why? Because Kanakpura houses the deity of Radha Madhav ji, which was worshipped by Jaidev Goswami.
I see.
Can you imagine? People don't know about it.
No.
Jaipur also has the deity. Which Mirabai used to worship.
Yeah, right.
So fascinating. Jaipur is fascinating if you really look at the history. That's why it is called Gupt Vrindavan also.
Right.
Like Bhubaneswar is called Gupt Kashi, Ekamra Kshetra, and Jaipur is called the Gupt Vrindavan. Right. Okay, then I think.
Right. So
no worries. You can ask
this,
me. I'm still here. I mean, I have 30 minutes also available with me. You can ask me questions if anything comes to your mind.
Yeah, I mean, others can ask questions. Otherwise, we can stop today, and you will be here on 28th, almost the whole day. and you're leaving on 29th also half the day. So we'll have some time, and maybe we can catch you then.
Yeah, sure.
So people, what you have said, I mean, one of the other reasons is that we are at level 0 now, because we were at level -1 before this talk. So we have to read a little bit more to ask you some more questions. So
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. But my suggestion would be that before going into archaeology, excavation, if you can understand heritage a little more in details, that will be helpful. Because you see what happens when you start excavating an archaeological sites. There are silver plates, copper plates coming out, silver plates coming out, coins coming out, manuscripts coming out, sculpting figures and figures coming out. These although form a broader gamut of archaeology, but each of them are separate specialized fields. In order to understand a coin, you have to study numismatics. If you understand sculptures, you have to understand iconography. If you understand the manuscripts, you have to read paleography. So each of those archaeological finds are then again distributed into separate experts to decipher them, and then bring back the dating put together. So dating is just not by carbon dating of a DT or a sculpture or a particular wall or brick, etc. Many other factors also go into it.
Right. Okay. So let us thank you again once more, and we will meet you about in about 18 days. So
Yes.
2.5 weeks.
Yes.
So namaskar. Thank you again. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.